Hello, I'm Will, and this is Mike with the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And in this video we're looking at issue 46 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine, which came with Stormhost Silver and Night Questor Flesh layer paints. We'll be learning the painting technique of highlighting using these and other paints, and then in our game we'll be trying out the full Aeldari Combat Patrol rules. So inside the issue, we do learn the highlighting painting technique, which is where you apply a small amount of a lighter colour of paint to the raised surfaces of a model. So this basically just exaggerates where the light would normally catch them in order to enhance the colour and bring out the detail. So you will want to use your small layer brush for this, and it points out the tip and the side of the brush in the picture because we're going to use both of those in highlighting, and you definitely want to thin down the paint you're using, although not too much because you will make it too watery and lose control of it, and then draw the brush into a point by pulling it outwards along your palette. So when you have a sharp edge, like on the Space Marine Terminator's armour here, you'll get best results by using the side of the brush, and what you want to do is move the brush along the edge with as smooth a motion as possible so you have an even layer of paint deposited the whole way along the edge. Try not to flatten your brush too much against the surface, as you see in the bottom right picture, where the bristles start to splay out and you get splodges of paint in places you don't want them and you have to go back over and tidy it up. That's much easier than trying to use the tip of the brush to do the same thing. However, if you have a less defined edge or a smoother surface, you're probably going to want to use the tip of the brush, like the folds of cloth or the definition of the muscles on an orc, for example, where you don't have an edge to run the side of the brush along, so you need to use the tip. While you do have to control this quite well, it's also a bit more forgiving in that the surface is like to be softer, so it doesn't matter if the highlight is a little bit less sharp, as that's how the light would catch it naturally anyway. And in fact, too sharp a highlight on a smoother curved surface can end up looking a little bit strange. And when using metallic paints to highlight, such as our new Stormhost Silver, you probably want to add a little bit of extra water because they tend to be a bit thicker and don't flow quite as well. There's also an example of highlighting faces, because on those you'll want to pick out particular areas of the face which would naturally catch the light. And you can always look at pictures of real faces to see where the light would generally fall, so where you want to apply the highlights. Then we have some examples of highlighting models in our collection. So we're starting with the Space Marines, using Calgar Blue as a highlight on all of the blue armour on the Ultramarines. These are almost all going to be sharp edges. You should be able to use the side of the brush plenty. There are a couple of places like the elbow armour where you might want to use the tip. It also suggests to use Calgar Blue to highlight the black armour of the Chaplain. You might decide that looks a little bit stark and strange. You might prefer to in fact use something like Mechanica Standard Grey instead for a softer and less blue highlight, but that's up to you. If you do use a base paint like that for highlighting, make sure you water it down a little bit more because it's thicker than a layer paint. Then we're using Stormhost Silver to highlight all of the silver and gold details on the Space Marines. For the silver it's fairly obvious. For the gold it gives it a slightly more burnished and worn look. And the Night Questor Flesh, our other new paint, for all of the brown leather parts, as that's a natural coloured highlight for those. So there's our Space Marines all highlighted, and they're actually looking fairly complete now with that definition that it gives them. And then we're moving on to the Aeldari. Not highlighting any of the red yet, but we do have some blue, gold and brown areas that we're highlighting with the same colours as before. And that's what they will look like after that. And then we have a little bit more lore on the orcs, which are often described as brutal but cunning, because all orcs love a good fight, but the most intelligent orcs can also be surprisingly cunning and punish those who think them simply mindless beasts. And over the page, there's a bit about squiggly beasts, or squigs for short, which are creatures that the orcs breed for a variety of purposes, including mounts in warfare. Some of the brutal inventions they come up with, like mega armour, which is essentially just a large amount of metal, which does make the orc harder to kill, but is really designed for making him more killy. And finally there's a bit about the Gretchen, some of the smallest green skins, which the larger orcs mostly just bully around and use as manual labour. Because as far as the orcs are concerned, bigger is better, and therefore the Gretchen must be naturally inferior. But that's it for the contents of the issue. I'll hand you over to Mike now, who will be taking us through more rules and then into our game.
So we actually have quite a few new rules coming in this issue. The first up is this mission Only War. This isn't a combat patrol mission, it's actually the mission from the core rulebook, a sort of basic game. So I'm just going to skim over it. It's a very simple objective where you just get victory points for holding objective markers, just one for each one you control, up to a maximum of 3. And it gives you some ideal board sizes for the size of game, rolling off for attacker and defender as usual and declaring battle formations as usual. So it's a fairly simple deployment. You just have a deployment zone 12 inches away from the middle, so you'll start 24 inches apart. And it's another simple, easy to get into game, generally useful when you're trying to learn how to play. And now we can learn basically the rest of the rules for the Aeldari Combat Patrol. So it's got their enhancements, their secondary objectives, and their stratagems. So we can have a look at their enhancements, which apply to the Farseer. So the default enhancement is Foresight, where once per turn you can target the bearer's unit with the Fire Overwatch stratagem for 0 CP, and if the bearer's unit is within range of an objective marker you control, they will hit on rolls of 4+ rather than 6+, otherwise they'll hit on 5+. So it's basically a free, better version of Fire Overwatch once per turn. Alternatively, you can give him Eldritch Might, which means that each time he makes a psychic attack, you reroll hit rolls of 1, a wound roll of 1, and a damage roll of 1. So it makes his Eldritch Storm power more effective. And then the Aeldari secondary objectives, their default one is Ineffable Agenda, where at the end of the Aeldari turn you score 3 VP if you control one or more objective markers that are not within your deployment zone and you did not control at the start of the turn. Or alternatively, you can choose a Greater Destiny, where at the end of the battle, the Aeldari player scores 10 VP if one or more of their units from their army, excluding battleship units, are wholly within the opponent's deployment zone. And then we have the Aeldari stratagems, which pretty much only apply to the Guardians and the Wind Riders. So they have Whip Fast Reactions, which is 1 CP and is used in your opponent's shooting or fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its target. And you pick one Aeldari infantry or mounted unit, and until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets your unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll, so it makes your stuff harder to hit. Then we have Storm of Shots, which is used in the shooting phase, and you can target up to 2 Aeldari mounted units or 1 Aeldari infantry unit for your army, and until the end of the phase, each time a model in those units makes an attack, you add 1 to the hit roll, and that costs 1 CP. And then Zephyr Swift, which is also 1 CP and is used at the end of your shooting phase. You can pick up to 2 Aeldari mounted units that are not in engagement range, and 1 or more enemy units, or 1 Aeldari infantry with the same criteria. And then each of the units picked can make a normal move of up to 6 inches, but they will not be able to declare a charge until the end of the turn. Also in the example, it has a little box saying +1 to hit to the Farseer. I think that's just an editing error. And we can also learn about the Chaos Space Marines faction ability, the Dark Pacts. So each time a unit from your army is selected to shoot or fight, it can make a Dark Pact, and if it does, you can select one of the following abilities that units gain until the end of the phase, and they gain either lethal hits or sustained hits 1. But once a unit has resolved its attacks after making a Dark Pact, you have to take a leadership test, and if it's failed, the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So it does give a tutorial for lethal hits and sustained hits. Lethal hits just means if you score a critical hit, which is an unmodified roll of 6, your attack automatically wounds, whereas with sustained hits, instead you get an extra hit out of it. And gives an example of the taking damage for making a Dark Pact. But that's it for new rules. There's no mission in this issue, so we'll be doing another combat patrol game. But we'll obviously be showing off the Aeldari. So we've set up for a game of Sweeping Raid, because that's the next mission we have to play, and you might be able to see all 4 objectives. There's objective 1 just on the left in the Aeldari deployment zone, 2 and 3 in No Man's Land, and 4 in the Space Marine deployment zone, because I've decided I'm going to play as the Marines. And as a reminder of the mission rule is that if a player controls their home objective at the start of the command phase, then they gain a command point on a 4+. For scoring, for the 2nd, 3rd and 4th battle rounds, you just gain 5 VP for each objective you control, and then in the 5th battle round, I get 5 points if I control objective 2, and 10 if I control objective 1, whereas it's the opposite for the Aeldari, they'll get 5 VP for objective 3, and 10 VP for objective 4, and that's scored at the end of the 5th battle round for both of us. So I've got the Infernus Marines up near objective 4. I put the Librarian with the Terminators to give them sustained hits, and I've got the Captain in Deep Strike. Since he has his reroll charges, that's not too bad of a thing for him. And I'll give the Captain the default enhancement, which is Champion Duelist, to make him better in melee. And I'll go for the default secondary objective as well, which is for the Captain to kill things. And here we have the Aeldari deployment.
Yeah, and you'll see straight away I've decided to swap out the Wraith Lord for the Wraith Guard, because we haven't seen them in a full combat patrol game since we got them. So we've got them in the middle near Objective 1, with the Guardians, who are within 3 of Objective 1, so they will be able to secure it. And I split the Wind Riders into 2 units, which, thanks to the way the stratagems are worded, is no actual disadvantage to them, because you can select both. And I'll take both the default enhancement and secondary objective, just because we haven't seen either of them yet. So that's Foresight for the Farseer, and then the Ineffable Agenda. Secondary objective.
So now we're just rolling off to see who goes first. Well, I won the roll-off, so into Space Marines turn 1. Well, straight away I do control my home objective, so I get a command point on a 4+. Nope. So my first turn is actually going to be a little bit passive. I'm just going to spend a command point to use Duty and Honour, I believe it's called, to sticky my home objective, and Infernus Marines are going to make sure they're all in cover. But I'm going to leave the Terminators where they are, because even if they move out, only about 1 or 2 of them can actually get in range of the Guardians, and they'll be exposed to the Wraith Guard. So I think I'll let the Aeldari come to me for now. On to Aeldari turn 1.
So I did get a command point on 4+, because I did hold my home objective, we didn't bother to show it. I also secure it with the Guardians, because they're a battle line unit. Fortune was also successful, and that went on the Wraith Guard, and my new Fate die for the Guardians being on an objective was another 6. And then we've moved like this. The Wraith Guard advanced because they didn't have any targets to shoot at, so they might as well get further forward. The Guardians are moving to the middle, where heavy weapons at least can see the Infernus Marines. One unit of Wind Riders is staying near the back, so the captain can't deep strike onto Objective 1, and the other one moving forward to take Objective 2. Which brings us to the shooting phase. We'll start with the Guardian unit. We have one Shuriken Catapult, and then the Star Cannon and the Farseid Eldritch Storm are in range of the Infernus Marines.
Yeah, I'm also spending a command point for Gene-Wrought Resilience on the Infernus Marines.
So we'll start with the Star Cannon. It has 2 shots hitting on 3s. They both hit, wounding on 3s as well, because it would normally be 2s. But I have a 3 Fate die that I might as well use for one of those, and then we get a second wound. So 2 wounds, a -3, but they are in cover.
So 5+ armor saves. Failed them both.
So it's 2 dead because there's 2 damage.
Yep.
Got Eldritch Storm from the Farseer as well. D6 +1 shots because it's blast, and there were 5 of them. Hitting on 3s and wounding on 4s because strength 6. But with Gene-Wrought Resilience gets 2 wounds at -2.
4+ saves. Fail both.
D3 damage each. First one does 1, and then the second one will just kill the injured one. And 1 Shuriken Catapult. They both missed. And then I spent a command point for Zephyr Swift, allowing the Guardians to make a normal move of up to 6 inches, which gets them all behind the cover from the point of view of probably anywhere the Terminators will be able to move. And then I will shoot with the unit of Wind Riders closer to the Infernus Marines, but I'm going to use Storm of Shots, and that allows me to select up to 2 Aeldari mounted units, so I'll select both of the Wind Rider units, and they get +1 to hit. Starting with the Scatter Laser, so with +1 to hit, I'm re-rolling 1s as well because they are the closest target. So they all hit. But they'll be winning on 4s because of Gene-Wrought Resilience, only 2.
3s, made them both.
And 2 Shuriken Catapults are in range from that front unit. They all hit. They win on 4s because they're not high strength, so Gene-Wrought Resilience doesn't do anything, but they are twin-linked, so we can re-roll. Into 2 wounds, -1.
So 3s again, because of cover. Failed 1, 2 damage.
And then I'll quickly do the other unit where only the Scatter Laser is in range, again on 2s because it does have that effect, and they are the closest unit to this unit as well. They are the closest unit, so I can re-roll, so they all hit. 4s to wound, 3.
3 pluses, failed 1, so it's down to 1 Marine.
But that will be the end of my turn.
Well, you'll get 3 VP for taking objective they didn't control, being objective 2. And then we're on to Space Marines turn 2. So I'll gain 5 victory points for holding my home objective. And I gained an extra command point as well for holding my home objective, and I need to make a battle shock test for the Infernus Marine Sergeant, who passes with a 10. Also, my command players are going to put Oath of the Moment on the unit of bikes near Objective 2. The Terminators have moved out around the train so they can all see those bikes. The Infernus Marine Sergeant can just about get in range of the Guardians if he moves a little bit. And then over in the corner, the captain has arrived from Deep Strike behind the train so that he's not visible to the Guardians, so they can't overwatch him for free. And hopefully he'll make his charge. Kind of rely on that. In the shooting phase, we'll start with the Terminators, and they're going to shoot at the unit of bikes near Objective 2.
And I'm spending a command point for whip fast reactions, so the Terminators have -1 to hit.
That will cancel out the +1 to hit from Fury of the First. So we've got 10 shots from Stormbolters, hitting on 3s but re-rolling because of both moment, and 6s are sustained. Don't think I'm going to fish for extra 6s, so we'll end up with 10 hits in total. Wounding on 4s, 6 wounds at no AP.
6 3 pluses, take 1 wound so far.
6 shots from the Assault Cannon, 3s re-rolling. So that's 5 hits with 3 sustained, so 8 hits in total. Strength 6, so wounding on 3s, but 6s are devastating. No devastating, but 7 wounds at no AP.
More 3s, failed 2, so there's a bike down and another one takes a wound.
Finally we've got Smite from the Librarian, D6 shots, 3, I guess I'll take that. Hitting on 3s, re-rolling. Turns into 2 hits. Strength 5, wounding on 3s. 2 wounds at -1.
4s. Failed 1 will destroy the damaged bike.
Yep. Then I'll do the captain shooting at the remaining bike. 4 shots from his Stormbolter on 3s, re-rolling. They all hit. Wounding on 4s. 2 wounds at an AP.
He does another damage.
Finally, the Infernus Sergeant can just about see a Guardian, so he'll try and roast them with his Pyre Blaster. D6 shots for 5. Wounding on 3s. 4 wounds at no AP, but ignoring cover.
So 4s. Oh, he kills 2 Guardians.
In the charge phase, I'm going to do the sensible charge first, also because the captain can reroll his charges. He's actually going to go after this spike squad near objective 1, I think, just to try and pressure the Aeldari home objective. And he comes in 9 inches away, so he needs to roll a 9, but he can reroll. So 4 is not enough. 7 isn't enough. And then we've got a long bomb charge where if the Terminators make a 12, they can just about reach the Guardians, and I might as well try. Needing a 12, no, and you know what, I'll even spend a command point to re-roll it. No. So that will be it. Unfortunately the captain didn't kill anything with his Stormbolter, and we'll head into Aeldari turn 2.
So I gained 5 victory points for holding objective 1. I didn't gain another command point. Fortune failed, unfortunately. I didn't gain another fate die because the Guardians are not on an objective, and the Lone Windrider failed its battle test. And then I'm going to start to move with the Guardians.
Yeah, but the Inferno Sergeant is in range and can still see the squad, so he can overwatch when they start their move. D6 shots, 3, really on 3s, they all wound.
3, 4 plus saves. It kills another 2. So the Guardians are moving across to objective 2 to take that. The Lone Windrider has flown up along the top edge of the board, so he's in a position to threaten objective 4. The Wraith Guard have moved towards objective 3, so I'll take that as well. And the other Windriders have flown away from the captain down to join the Wraith Guard over there, so they can see the Terminators. Then we're basically just going to shoot everything at the Terminators, starting with the Guardians, and I will use Storm of Shots on them this time.
Yeah, I'm going to use a CP for Gene Wrought Resilience.
Everything's in range except for the Farseer's Singing Spear, so that'll actually go into the Infernus Sergeant. I'll do that first, actually, just to get it out of the way. It hits, wound on 2, so strength 9. Oh, it didn't. Never mind. Then Eldritch Storm on the Terminators, d6 plus 1 shots, 7. Hitting on 2s, because it normally is 3s. Oh wow, okay, well, 4 1s makes that kind of pointless. And then 4s to wound. I have tons of fate dice, so I use a 5 for an automatic wound, and 1 more.
4 plus saves, made 1.
D3 damage, 3.
I'll kill a Terminator.
Star Cannon next on 2s. They both hit. I use another of these 5s for another automatic wound. The other one will be on 4, which it does.
All 4 plus. Failed both, so that's another Terminator dead.
And 12 shuriken catapult shots on 2s. 11 hits, wounding on 5s. So it would be anyway. 2 at -1.
3 plus armour. Failed both.
I'll do these Windriders down by objective 3 next because there's a Terminator on 1 wound, so I don't want to use the Wraith Guard shots yet. The other closest units, I'm rerolling 1s to hit, but they're not on the objective. So the Scatter Laser can reroll that 1, 6 hits. 4s to wound because of Gene Wrought Resilience, only 1.
2 plus save, made it.
And 4 catapult shots. Reroll 1s, 4 hits, 5s to wound. And Twin Linked, 4 wounds, -1, but they do have cover though, so.
2 plus saves, made them all.
And I'll do the other Scatter Laser from the other unit, not the closest target anymore, so no 1s to reroll anyway. 4s, 1.
2 plus, made it.
Finally, we've got the Wraith Guard on them as well then. 5 shots hitting on 4s. 3, wounding on 3s because it normally be 2s. Just 2 wounds on their invulnerable save.
4 plus, made both.
Finally, that Lone Windrider is actually going to charge the Infernus Sergeant. I hadn't originally planned on this, but actually if he does tie him up and doesn't die, then it will stop the flamethrower shooting. Needs a decent enough roll, although he can fight across the barricade. So 12 is enough. So yes, he does have to get into base contact, and therefore has to come around the barricade. And then has 3 attacks on 3s. 2 hits, 4s to wound, no, 5s to wound, so nothing.
And then the Infernus Marine gets to fight back. 3 attacks on 3s re-rolling, because it's still low at the moment. Yep, winning on 4s. 2 at no AP.
Well, I'll automatically pass 1 save and then make the other one at least.
And then at the end of the turn, the Aeldari will gain another 3 victory points for taking an objective that they didn't hold at the start of the turn. And we're into Space Marines turn 3. So in my command phase, I'll gain 5 victory points for holding my home objective, and I did get another command point from that as well. The captain has moved, and he advanced, and I re-rolled it to try and get a better roll. So you can go and threaten objective 1, and he can't be overwatched by the Guardians. The Infernus Marine is going to stay in combat with the bike, and he passes battle shock test, where the Terminators are going towards the Guardians, who I put both the moment on.
But I can use the Farseer's enhancement to overwatch for free, and because the unit is standing on an objective, they hit on 4s. So I'm going to start with all of the shuriken catapults because there's a Terminator on 1 wound. So these are hitting on 4s. 5 hits wounding on 5s. 2 at -1.
No cover now, so 3s. Made them both.
I'll do the Star Cannon next. 4s. Yes, and 3s. Yes.
4 plus vulnerables. Failed both.
So the wounded one dies, another one's down to 1 wound. Then Eldritch Storm, only 4 models, so that's only 2 shots, which both miss, and the Singing Spear also misses.
So in the shooting phase, the Inferno Sergeant's going to fire his bolt pistol at the bike, and then the Terminators will shoot into the Guardians. So bolt pistol from the Inferno Sergeant, missed.
And I use whip fast reactions with the Guardians again.
And we've got 2 Stormbolters. I'm going to use low power smite again. 8 shots on 3s re-rolling, 6s are sustained, 10 hits, wounding on 3s, 5 wounds at no AP.
4s though. Well, it's actually 4 Guardians dead.
So I'll shoot the Assault Cannon.
Done.
So that's 7 hits from the Assault Cannon, 2s, 6 at no AP.
More 4s. That actually kills both the Guardians and the weapons platform.
And finally Smite, gets 5 shots, 3 re-rolling, 2 6s. So that's going to be 6 hits, 3s, 4 wounds at -1.
And 4s on the Farseer. I could use Fate Dice, but I'm not going to, because actually if the Farseer dies, the Terminators don't get to charge objective 2, which might actually be to my advantage at this point. So failed 2 saves.
2d3 damage. 3.
The Farseer lives.
Well, in the charge phase, the Terminator is going to charge the Farseer. Now they roll an 8, that should be enough. So they get in and they get to fight first. I'll start with the Librarian. He has 4 attacks, hitting on 2s because he gets the benefit from the Terminator squad, and re-rolling because of both the moment. So that's actually 5 hits because of sustained. Wounds on 2s because he's strength 6. That's 5 wounds at -1.
Well, 4 plus invulnerables, well, very dead.
Yeah, it's 3d3 damage, so he's definitely squished.
Well, I get to fight with the Lone Wind Rider before the Sergeant gets to strike. Hits twice. 5s to wound though. No.
3 attacks from the Sergeant, gets a 1 hit. That doesn't wound. So that's the state of the board. And we'll head into Aeldari turn 3.
Well, I did succeed in getting another CP because I still hold my home objective. Obviously can't get any more Fate Dice anymore. And a battle shot test for the Lone Bike, who passes this time, few on a 6, and I do gain 10 anyway because I hold 2 objectives. Then that Wind Rider is going to fall back.
Yeah, and then he's going to get overwatched by the Inferno Sergeant. So he gets 3 shots, so I'm going to have to take it because I want that command point for something else. Wounding on 3s, only 1 wound.
Well, I can automatically save using a Fate Die.
Perfidious Eldar.
Then I'm moving the Wraith Guard towards the Terminators. I think they might actually end up charging the Terminators because I don't think the Terminators will kill them all that fast. And the other Wind Rider unit is just going to stay on objective 3, but then move so they can see the Inferno Sergeant. So that does bring us to shooting, where I'll do the Wraith Guard on the Terminators.
So I would spend my command point for Gene Warp Resilience.
5 shots on 4s, 4 hits, so I'll be winning on 3s. Well, I did roll a 2, so that did help, only 2 wounds.
Well, 4 plus saves. Made them both.
And the Wind Rider unit is going to shoot the Inferno Sergeant, and I might as well use a CP for Stormer shots. Scatter Laser, not the closest unit, so I don't get to re-roll anything, and I get 2 wounds.
3 plus save.
Oh,
never mind.
So the Wraith Guard will charge the Terminators. Well, they're in. So with a charge and a pile in, they get like that, so all of 5 are on the objective. They'll have 15 attacks hitting on 4s. 8 hits wounding on 4s. 2.
2 plus save, or failed, so lose a Terminator. Then 4 attacks from the Librarian on 3s, no at the moment here. So they all hit, plus sustained. Wounding on 4s, 1 wound at -1.
3 plus, made it.
3 attacks from a Power Fist on 3s, getting 2. And wounding on 3s, getting 2 at -2.
4s, oh, made both. So that's the end of my turn. I do get another 3 points because I took 2 objectives from the Space Marines that turn.
Then we'll be on to Space Marines turn 4. So I'm not getting any victory points because I actually hold any objectives. I don't hold my home objective. So the captain will move to be in range of objective 1. And I'll put over the moment on the Wraith Guard so the Terminators have an easier time of it. And then the only shooting is going to be the captain at the Wind Rider unit.
And I might as well use whip fast reactions because the Wind Rider is the only unit I have left to actually spend command points on.
2 shots on 3s then. Oh, they both miss anyway. And then we're straight to the fight phase where the Wraith Guard go first.
15 attacks on 4s. Only 6 hits and 2 wounds again.
With 2 plus saves, made them both. Now we got +1 to hit from Oath Moment, so 4 attacks from the Librarian on 2s, re-rolling. Get that in the box. And re-roll that 1. So we got 5 hits again. Wounding on 4s, 3 wounds this time.
3s, failed 1.
D3 damage, 3.
That kills 1.
And 3 attacks from the other Terminator. Gets 3 hits. Actually, you know what? Gonna re-roll all of them.
Oh.
Paid off. 5 hits. Wounding on 3s. 4 wounds at -2.
4s. failed 2, so it kills another one.
But that's going to be it. On to Aeldari, turn 4.
So I can just spend a fate die to make sure I automatically pass the battle drop test on that lone Wind Rider, which means I will gain 15 victory points because I hold 3 objectives, putting me up to 39, which actually just gives me the game because there's no way the Space Marines can score 30 points in turn 5.
Yeah, can I get a maximum of 15? Because you don't get any for holding objectives at the start of the turn in turn 5, and I can't really do anything about the Aeldari holding 4 and 3. So we'll end the game there with an Aeldari victory by quite a long margin. I'll recap that game for you now. So that was the game for issue 46 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine. How do you think that went?
Well, obviously it turned out fairly well overall, although there were points in the middle of the game where I did think maybe it wasn't going quite so well. When the Terminators, well, I wouldn't have to say shrugged off the shooting, but I did only kill, I think, 2 of them when I'd hoped to do more than that. The Wraithguard shooting actually did nothing at all this game.
Yeah.
And the Guardians got wiped out, probably because I put them in the wrong place, really. They got a bit too close, which then allowed the Terminators to get in on the action. And obviously, as usual, the Terminators did destroy things quite easily, I guess apart from the Wraithguard in melee. Although actually, once those moment got on them, they still did pretty well.
Yeah, considering there's only 2 of them fighting. But then it just sort of the usual Space Marine problem where you lose the Infernus Marines and then you don't have enough units.
Yeah, and I focused on them first because they were the only visible target. And to be fair to the Sergeant, it still was quite a threat, managing to kill, I think, 4 Guardians.
And if you'd managed to kill your Wind Rider, that was consisting of my home objective, actually, it would have been less of a crushing defeat. Yeah, to be honest, I think I misdeployed. I probably should have swapped my units around to keep the Infernus Marines safe, because the Terminators in cover would actually probably be fine to weather a lot of shooting, because they had to waste so much movement to get around the terrain. It was very risky to put the Captain where he was, although there's a reasonable chance of him making it, but yeah, it was a bit of a risk to use him like that, especially with the secondary objective I picked. Probably would have been better to actually deep strike him in the middle.
Yeah, there was the possibility of dropping him nearer my home objective, but the problem with that was the Guardians could see him at the time, so they would have got the free overwatch.
Yeah, although they weren't on an objective then, so it wouldn't have actually been that bad.
Yeah, they would have only been hitting on 5s, so he probably would have been fine, actually.
And I probably could have put him in, so you got the benefit of cover as well, so yeah, that was probably a mistake. Perhaps I'm just too used to playing Tyranids where everything moves faster than 6 inches. Extra command points, I think, was probably more helpful for the Aeldari as well. You didn't even spend them all, but all that extra free movement you could get from your stratagems and +1 to hit.
Yeah, and it's possible I should have used it to keep the Guardians away from the Terminators, actually, a bit more. But yes, the new stratagems certainly do help the Aeldari because their one problem is they're very fragile. Being able to move after you shoot means you can pop out, shoot, and then jump back into cover, or, as I did, get more movement after shooting, which can allow you to get onto an objective. So you can move, shoot at full effectiveness because you don't need to advance, and then use the stratagem to get extra movement. And then the -1 to hit combines well with Fortune, because -1 to hit and -1 to wound on something makes even Guardians actually quite tough. All the Wind Riders really hard to damage. And then Storm of Shots is just generally really handy because one of your strengths is the shooting of the Aeldari Combat Patrol, and so giving the entire Guardian unit +1 to hit can be really powerful. Like, the shooting catapults do add up. And there's also the slightly weird thing where 2 of those at least can target either an infantry unit or 2 mounted units, so that does mean there's no disadvantage really to splitting up the Wind Rider unit. Because often the downside of splitting a unit in half is it means that it reduces the effectiveness of certain effects that target 1 unit because now it's 2 units. But in this case, you could just target both of them, so they can both move 6 inches, or both get +1 to hit. Especially given with their OC2, which we've commented on several times, that means both units can move, shoot at full effectiveness, and then move again, so it's a 20-inch move.
For a reasonably tough unit as well, at least against AP0 things.
And then the enhancements, I will probably use this one in preference, or free and better Overwatch, because with the unit of Guardians, that's again really strong because they have a lot of shooting. The applications of that are fairly obvious. Making Eldritch Storm better is good, because Eldritch Storm is quite good, but he's always going to be with the Guardians, so I sort of feel like one is better than the other in that instance.
Yeah, I mean, you can basically contrive it to use the free Overwatch every turn if you really want to, so you'll just get so much more shooting out of the Guardians that way. Or even if you just use it to make the Star Cannon shoot at something far away, it's still a free Overwatch.
Yeah, and they want to be near objectives anyway because they can secure them and they generate fate dice. And then for secondaries, well, this one is good because it's very easy as the Aeldari to take an objective you didn't hold at the start of the turn because you can just zip some Wind Riders over, or board control is one of their strengths. But by the same token, the other one also just needs you to stick some Wind Riders in the opponent's deployment zone.
The only issue is them surviving long enough. If you have the Wraith Lord, you basically just advance that to your opponent's deployment zone and sit it there. Yeah, I mean, in theory, you can probably get more victory points out of the default secondary, but the second one's probably fairly doable. Again, another one that perhaps synergised well with this scenario because you got more victory points for holding your opponent's home objective.
So overall, I think a strong set of rules that complements what we already know about them.
But we also learned about Dark Pacts, but we'll talk about that probably in the next video because we'll be getting the rest of the Chaos Combat Patrol rules, and we'll just talk about it then. Otherwise, there isn't too much more to say. So as always, if you like this content, do leave a like and subscribe, and leave any comments how you've been getting on with the Combat Patrol magazine. You've been the Tip of Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.